All right, so we're a couple minutes. We are a couple minutes early here. I hope everything is going right. So I'm just getting some more information. We don't start until 8:45. I want to make sure anybody that wants to be here is able to get here. So give me just a minute. Let's see. Just making sure everything's queued up. We still got about 2 minutes left here. All right. Still about 2 minutes. Eight 44. Almost time. Oh, I hope I do this all right. 8:44. Almost time. Got a few more seconds. I'll make sure we start on the time that we said we would start. I don't know why it won't connect to the chat. All right, so I hope everybody is able to see this. So with that new court case going on, the faithless elector, this is something that really affects the political landscape in a huge way. It's the Electoral College versus the popular vote. In 2016, if everybody remembers, Hillary Clinton actually did win the popular vote. ABC News puts it at 2.9% that she won it by. Wikipedia at 2.1%. But either way, it was the Electoral College that had elected Donald Trump. Now, how did the Electoral College elect Donald Trump? Well, in a nutshell, and we're going to learn about it here in a little bit, but in a nutshell, the Electoral College was designed by the founders to protect the government from, well, stupid people like us, the citizens. So back in the day when the founders created everything, it sounds like a religious thing. Sorry about that. Scratch that. Back in the day when the founders created the government basis that we have today, the populace was not very well educated. They didn't really understand what was going on in the world. It was a different world. People weren't connected and people weren't educated. You were lucky if you could read. And quite honestly, back then, the vote wasn't about, a male or female thing. It was a landowner, non-landowner person who could vote. And in fact, very few people could vote, period. But the electors were basically designed so that way a stupid populace couldn't make a stupid decision. So they're not actually required to vote the way that the people vote. So this court case in the Supreme Court right now is all about, well, should the electors be forced to vote the way the popular vote in their state goes? So what are the qualifications basically to be an elector? So this is from archives.gov, the National Archives. The U.S. Constitution contains quite a few provisions relating to the qualifications of electors. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 provides that no senator and no representative or person holding an office of trust should or profit under the United States shall be appointed as an elector. As a historical matter, the 14th Amendment provides that state officials who have engaged in an insurrection or a rebellion against the United States, or basically anybody who has fought against the United States government or formed some sort of group that fought against the United States government, or given aid and comfort to its enemies, are disqualified from serving as electors. So you can't be a senator, you can't be a representative, you can't have a office of trust or profit. Who selects the electors? Well, each state chooses its own selectors. It's a two-part process. And it gets a little bit confusing, but bear with me. We're going to learn this together. First, the political parties in each state choose slates of potential electors sometime before the general election. And then second, during the general election, the voters in each state select their state's electors by casting their ballots. So essentially, the state has a pool of electors, and based upon what you vote on, if you vote Republican, if you vote Democrat, if you vote Independent, whatever, Green Party, whatever the majority vote is, that state chooses the elector that is that leaning, so to speak. So the first part, the political parties control that part, and each state kind of varies from state to state, but basically the parties either nominate slates of potential electors at their state party conventions, or they choose them by a vote of the party's central committee. This happens in each state for each party for whatever the rules state party and sometimes national party have for that particular process. The first part of the process results in each presidential candidate having their own unique slate of potential electors, people that are potentially going to be able to vote for them, but they are not required to vote that way. Here is the answer to that. The question is, are there restrictions on who the electors can vote for? And no, there are not. In fact, there have been 4 other cases in the past, not just Hillary Clinton, where the popular vote did not decide the president. There is no constitutional provision or federal law that requires electors to vote according to the results of the popular vote in their states. Now, some states do, however, actually do require electors to cast their votes according to the popular vote, but not all of the states. And these fall into basically 2 categories: electors bound by state law and those bound by pledges to political parties. So you have one that is bound to vote the way the state votes, and one that is bound to, hey, if you're part of the grand old party, then you are telling the grand old party, if the state elects me as the elector, then I will vote Republican. If you're part of the Democrat base, then you're saying, hey, I'm going to vote Democrat if the state votes me as an elector. But they don't have to. They can vote for whoever they gosh darn well want to. Let's see. The Supreme Court has upheld the Constitution does not require the electors be completely free to act as they choose, and therefore political parties may extract pledges from electors. Kind of like when you go to college and you say, hey, I pledge I'm going to vote this way. I pledge I'm going to vote this way. So they get electors to pledge to vote for the party's nominees. Some state laws provide a law called the faithless electors, which may be subject to fines or disqualified if they cast an invalid vote and could be replaced by a substitute elector. So that's pretty interesting. So what are the pros and the cons of getting rid of the Electoral College versus keeping the Electoral College? So this is from pro.con.org. Should the United States use the Electoral College in presidential elections? So the pro, and this is where it gets kind of calling us stupid. The founding fathers enshrined the Electoral College in the U.S. Constitution because they thought it was the best method to choose the president. Using electors instead of the popular vote was intended to safeguard against uninformed or uneducated voters by putting the final decision in the hand of electors most likely to possess the information necessary to make the best decision, which was absolutely true back in the day. But in this information age, people are quite well informed, actually, as long as you read past the headlines, that is. Don't trust the headlines. What is a con to that? Well, the reason why it's there in the first place. Modern technology lets us get all the information that we need at the touch of our fingertips, and we can make informed decisions by watching dissenting opinions, and we can take evidences that other people place in front of us, and we can take our evidence and what we've heard, we can make our own decisions. We know what's going around in the world before a lot of people do, because we're on the internet, we see it, we're scouring it, we're there, we're like, wow, okay, this is some interesting stuff. So a lot of people are informed. So is this really necessary to protect us from us? Are we really stupid? We're not anymore. What is the second pro? The Electoral College ensures all parts of the county are involved in selecting the president of the United States. Hold on just a second. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I apologize greatly. I got a lot of medical stuff and emergency stuff going on with my dad. But what is the next pro? The Electoral College basically guarantees a certainty of the outcome of a presidential election. We're not going to have a tie. There will be no such thing with the Electoral College. So if the election was based upon popular vote, there is quite a good possibility that a candidate could receive the highest number of popular votes without actually obtaining a majority. There's an example of it. President Nixon in 1968 and Clinton in 1992, when both men had won the most electoral votes while receiving just 43% of the popular vote. The existence of the Electoral College precludes calls for recounts, so you don't have to go through a recount. You remember Florida? You remember that debacle? That was the one where President Obama received 51.3% of the popular vote, but 61.7% of the electoral votes. In the 227 years, the winner of the popular vote has lost the electoral vote only 5 times. So that means that it's actually kind of working. But what is the con to that? Well, it's simple. The Electoral College ignores the will of the people. I mean, it does. There's 300 million people in the United States, and 538 people decide who will be president. That's where we're at. I understand why it was put in there. You don't want, and I apologize for saying it, but you don't want an uneducated, stupid populace making decisions that affect the entire country. It's bullshit. But 538 people making the decisions for 300 million, and in a few cases, they are not bound to vote the way that the people want to vote is kind of weird. You know? In 2016, Hillary Clinton. So President-elect Donald Trump benefited from that system. And after the 2016 election, he said he believes presidents should be chosen by popular vote. I would rather see it where you went with simple votes. You know, you get 100 million votes and somebody else gets 90 million votes and you win. You gotta admit, when Donald Trump speaks, he does speak pretty plainly, which is why he appeals to the working class American, because he's not this hoity-toity Harvard accented person. So from what I have gone over at this point, it really kind of seems like maybe we should get rid of that popular vote. The Electoral College, and go with the popular vote. Why is it that 536 people are deciding the president for more than 300 million people? I understand if we were dumb as a box of rocks and we were walking around like, and we didn't know what was going on in the world, but we're connected. We know what's going on in the world. So why do we need the Electoral College? Why do we need a few people deciding for all? And I don't know why it never connected to the chat, so I apologize for that. It never connected. Why? I don't know. But all right. But that's what I got for this one. But I definitely want your opinion on this. Do we still need the Electoral College to protect us from ourselves? Which is what it is. It's protecting the nation from educated populace. I don't know. I think we have the technology today to count all the votes equally, one vote for one person. I think we have the capabilities of doing it. I think it could be a good idea. I could see some cons for it based upon the fact that this is the first time in history that more people have lived in cities than in rural areas, and popular vote when it comes down to a state level for, let's say California with its water stuff, let's say that they just across the board said, hey, no provisions whatsoever. If you use more than 50 gallons of water a day, then you get a $1,000 fine. Okay, well, most people live in the city. They say, okay, cool, let's do it. Well, what about the people in the rural areas that need to use more than 50 gallons of water a day? Do they pay $1,000 fine every day? Well, that would be ridiculous. But I'm taking it to its next logical, absurd conclusion. That's all I got for this one. I appreciate your guys' time. This is some important stuff. Let me know what you guys think, and comment, like, and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one. I love you all.